This is Voice of the Bus, Mark Johnson, and you're listening to the Folsom Frenzy Podcast.
Hey, welcome to the Folsom Frenzy Podcast. We are back in not our traditional format. We were actually able to all get together, which is nice.
Look at that. And we're clearly naturals at it based on our spacing, which we're going to figure out.
Active movement.
But welcome back, everybody. Last season, we said we were going to have a wrap-up episode, and we never actually did because it was so shitty. We didn't want to relive the season. But to recap, we went 3-9 as a football team. This is after I predicted 11-1.
Yeah, you really took egg
Yeah, that sucked. We were 1-8 in Big 12 play, so that was also not great. But this was the first season without Shador and Travis, and I think everybody outside of the program was saying they're not going to, fare well. And turns out they were right. Great call by the haters there. But 3-9 is a place that I feel like we're pretty familiar with as Buffs fans. So I'll pass it off to Sreyas because I feel like he has the most historical depth on being 3-9.
Not even just 3-9, but 1-8 in conference, right? Mm-hmm. How many times have been 1-8 in conference since Dan Hawkins? Really, right? It's just been on repeat over and over again. I think one of the painful parts about that season, out of everything else, is the fact that there were some winnable games at the beginning. Right? We were very much in that Georgia Tech game, very much in the BYU game. Obviously, got blown out by Houston, but there were opportunities to get a couple wins and get some confidence. Beat Iowa State at home. That was a great,
shocking win.
Yeah, it was shocking. Because Iowa State wasn't top 25 at the time. Obviously, they turned out to be somewhat fraudulent and kind of fell apart towards the end of the season. But coming back from the bye is where the wheels completely fell off the bus, and in a very, very disheartening way. That Utah game where it was completely uncompetitive from the first drive. I mean, I remember I was down in Denver doing other stuff, and I happened to watch the first quarter, and I said, "Oh my God, I'm not watching any more of this." I
don't hate myself enough to watch this game.
It was atrocious. And then you think to yourself, okay, it's on the road. Utah was really good last year. Then come to Arizona. Arizona was the one that felt painfully familiar. It reminded me of Carl Burrell's seasons, it was 42-7 at half, something like that at home.
I forgot how bad the
somehow that score sounds closer than the actual game.
It was horrible, and it was because we had multiple turnovers.
It caused multiple turnovers.
Yeah. By the third quarter, the stadium was completely cleared out, and there's a tarps off moment. It was our tarps off moment, right after Oklahoma State started it. It was really, really painful.
I got an airplane, and I flew out for that game. I went into that game and watched that game live, and that's how you get rewarded for the punishment. I don't know if you were through, but I think what the most disappointing part of last season from an overarching view is, I agree, we come in, we schedule a tough game with Georgia Tech. I thought Georgia Tech was going to be great last year. I think Georgia Tech was really good last year. And to hang in there in that game and have a chance to actually win it and get the job done and think, okay, tough loss, but this team has some heart. This team has a chance. It all fell off, and the team definitely quit on itself. And I think part of it, to be honest, and I actually don't really hate to throw him under the bus, but I think Caden Salter had a bad attitude and was not trying to play to win, and I think the team around him quit. And the musical chairs of quarterback switching and all the different things that we did that felt very just not high level, very, we're the cellar dweller of the previously the Pac-12, now the Big 12. Someone's got to be the cellar dweller, but oh my God, I'm so tired of being the cellar dweller. And it felt just like another rerun of every season we've ever seen, which I think is extra painful in light of all of the hope and excitement that
coming off the Heisman season.
Yeah, Heisman season, you've got
Golden Arm,
9 wins. Coach. Yeah, 9 wins.
And I don't think any of it. Well, Topher thought 11-1, but I don't know that anyone really expected us to be better. We understood what we were losing in Shador, and we understood what we were losing in Travis, but I don't think anyone expected us, other than I guess the unnamed haters, to be as bad as we were.
Stephen A. Smith.
So bad. so bad that I think there are times where we were like, do we just pull the plug on this podcast? It's so painful to make these episodes. And, I think in some ways Jacob has quit the podcast, has his daughter, and the pain is just too much. So I don't know. I think that's, from the high level view, incredibly disappointing season, and we're excited to talk about it with you guys before we get ready for the next one. So
Yeah, I from the 30,000 foot view, like I felt like a lot of last year's wasn't a talent issue, right? Like I think Caden came in with a bad attitude, but I think he's a talented football player.
Hey, he's in the CFL now, and
Right?
he's a starter in the CFL.
Wow.
Yeah,
I know that.
for BC, I think. Yeah.
So like I don't think it was a talent issue, and I think part of why last season was so frustrating was because it was clearly disorganization and bad coaching and poor execution, right? Like we can't sit there and expect us to run the same exact play and have it be successful if it wasn't successful the first time. And that's what it felt like watching Pat Shurmur's offense. Hey, we're just going to go out there and run hitches. Or we're going to run inside zone. We're not going to have any fakes. We're not going to have any pulling guards. We're not going to get any sort of difference. We're not going to try anything different. And it was halfway through the season. I think it was the Arizona game where we saw like Pat Shurmur's no longer the play caller. But this change was made before the Arizona game. So all of us were like, yeah. Oh,
no.
Damn. So
It can get worse.
the structural rot that was within our program last season was just on full display, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And I will go to bat for this defense. I don't think this defense was as bad as statistically they showed at the end of the year, especially. I think they gave up because they looked across the locker room and said, those guys can't do their job. So it doesn't matter how many stops I make, how many tackles for loss, how many picks I get, how many fumbles I force. We're still going to get our ass beat because we can't score the football.
What's really tough, I mentioned this on a number of the episodes last year, is we really felt the absence of Coach Prime without realizing that he was absent with all of his health issues.
Yeah, correct.
I think that was incredibly apparent. Honestly, that Iowa State win, the week that he had, I think he had blood clot surgery that week, if I'm not mistaken. He had the bladder surgery for cancer before the season.
Right.
But that win, the week that he had that surgery, was incredibly inspiring. I thought that they would wake up from that and say, this is a new moment for the team. Like, we're going to wake up now and we're going to win for Coach. But I think we were just missing him and his presence. Obviously, there was definitely some systemic rot, as we like to say in this podcast, which has unfortunately followed this program for 2 decades.
Yeah.
And this is just yet another instance of it. And I hope that this year, and we don't necessarily have to get into the positives yet. I think I'm ready to keep feeling terrible about ourselves, but it's all gone now. It's completely new. It's basically like Coach Prime is one of the few things that's been retained since last year. There's a new roster, new coaching staff altogether. Yeah. So take that for what it is.
I think that leaves us as probably the biggest wild card in college football. I have yet to see anyone that's definitively said the Buffs are going to be terrible, or anyone that says definitively that the Buffs are going to be great.
I've seen plenty of people that said the Buffs are going to be terrible.
Oh, yeah. Betting markets aren't really happy with it. Chase, what do you think of now 3 years in the recruiting strategy that we used to have of trying to find like the 4 or 5-star high school recruits that were bench warmers in the SEC and bringing them in?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the strategy is not, Colorado got a hard time. Everyone was upset when, my bags are Louis, I'm coming in, if you're not going to contribute, get out. And there was so much outrage about that when he did it, but that is what every program is doing now. The problem is that you have to understand in today's football, you're going to have people that come in and you're going to have people leaving pretty much every year. It's a constant. It doesn't matter if you go get the right guy out of a lower level program, odds are he's probably not even going to be here the year after. And so you have to find a way to make this team work. And I do not think we have seen these teams gel at all. I think it's been abysmal. I think you saw a little bit of that because Travis and Shador had played with each other, obviously, at Jackson State and then come in. But
the JSU guys, they make a difference.
The JSU guys, they were
Cameron Stillman Craig was also a really good anchor on defense. We really missed him last year, right?
But it's frustrating because it used to be, well, we're not gelling and we're trying something different, and I'm okay with it because we're trying something different. Because clearly, what's been happening in the past with Colorado football, it's not worked. But other programs are doing exactly what we're trying to do here at Colorado. Now, there are teams like Utah or whatever that are pretty good about retaining their talent and building guys up. That's not how Coach Prime wants to play, and that's okay. I know that drives Jake crazy. We're not going to recruit out of high school. But having a totally new team every year, to your point, creates a lot of variance. And I think part of the problem with Pat Shurmur, who I spent way too long defending for way too many seasons.
Yeah, you did.
But he is trying to ram people into his system, and that was very clear in my opinion, especially with Caden Salter. Caden Salter was not a Pat Shurmur system guy. That was a horrible fit. I think it would be interesting to go back in time and hear what those conversations were that got him into that program.
I put Caden Salter in the go-go, right? Like,
Right.
whoa,
Mhm.
that would be
Right.
fascinating.
And so all of a sudden you're looking around and you're like, oh, maybe some of our other quarterbacks in the room might be a better fit for the system. And it turns out for a second there, it looked right, in the Delaware game. But I think that's been frustrating. I'm really encouraged about the fact that I know we're not previewing next season, but keeping Julian Lewis, even though that's pretty much all we're keeping, our quarterback and our head coach. But
JoJo Williams.
somehow that's almost
not
more
much.
continuity than we've had other than with Travis and Shedeur. So
Yeah.
that's a long-winded answer to say. I think it is, as long as Coach Prime's our head coach, I think that's going to be our process and our system, but I think we've clearly seen some drawbacks with it.
Yeah. One incredibly concerning thing is we spent 3 years beating up on the OL, right?
Yeah.
And Khalil Benson in particular is a case study in why our own systemic rot may be a big part of that.
Yeah.
Because he went right back to Indiana, was a starter for them, won the national championship,
champion.
and now it was reported today earlier that he may be a starter for the Chiefs.
Wow.
So he was undrafted, but signee by the Chiefs, and it looks like they might put him as one of their tackles.
Well, breaking
I don't know.
news from the Folsom.
Yeah.
Whenever we get this uploaded,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
yeah. That's what. That's who knows? Maybe I got sent-held. No, but I saw a lot of because Khalil Benson was part of our program, and so a lot of the people surrounding Khalil Benson, his mom, and stuff like that, are still followers of our mutual followers, and they were all reacting to it, like congratulating him and stuff like
And
that.
happy
So,
for him.
Yeah, good
I don't
for him.
feel anything
Yeah.
against any of these guys.
yeah, and he was awful here. I mean, in that year, and so going back to now that we've had enough time and years to really process it, I think that Chase was a big beater of this drum. I think the Shedeur holding onto the ball too long thing may have been very, very real, and we're starting to see it in the NFL and some of his struggles there, right? Like at least in the half season that he played last year. So.
To be clear, he's still the best quarterback in Cleveland.
He is.
Yeah.
By a country mile.
He is.
Right.
And he's still the best passing quarterback that CU's had maybe ever. I mean,
Probably ever.
passing, like pure passing. Like who do we have to compare to? Joel Klatt?
I mean, I don't know. Slash would throw it 800 yards.
Yeah, but he wasn't just a passing quarterback,
Sure.
right? So either way, we're seeing some of that systemic rot because clearly it wasn't just talent. Like if you have a guy that we beat up on and really struggled when he was here, go win a national championship as a starter, and now potentially be an NFL starter, like as a rookie, undrafted rookie. There's something else going on for sure.
Yeah.
So it's a big opportunity this year with a completely clean slate. I'm really high on Brendan Marion. I'm very excited. However, lacking in excitement we were for Pat Shurmur. I think we're excited for Brendan Marion.
And I'm a little apprehensive based on how excited we were for Sean Lewis.
I was actually just
very similar.
I was just thinking.
To be fair, that TCU game was a thing of beauty. The TCU game he called an absolutely perfect game.
It was
Right.
amazing.
But I guess my point is it feels like there might be, and maybe this is gone now that Shedeur's gone, but it always felt like he didn't have total control. I think he ended up saying he didn't have total control, that Coach Prime had some influence. We didn't run the ball at all. And I'm hoping that there will be more autonomy for a really cool system and an exciting potential way to, you got to do more with less at Colorado, because a lot of these teams, Texas Tech is putting out an incredible roster this season, right? And they're going to continue to put out an incredible roster year in and year out. I don't think we see an end to that. And so if you can do something that works for you and figure out a system, great. But you got to full commit to the system. You can't bring in someone with a great system and then say, yeah, but I want to do it my way. And I'll have to believe that when I see it. I don't know. Maybe I'm being overly paranoid. And
I think there's reasons for optimism, though, just based on personality type. Yes, I get that Sean Lewis was a head coach and took a demotion. Brandon Marion was a head coach, took a demotion. But there's definitely a personality difference. Brandon Marion is much more in your face. I don't think that any way Brandon Marion takes that job if there's any opportunity to not have autonomy in what he's doing. And based on, of course, we can only base on what we see in video clips and stuff like that. He seems to be running the show, which is what we need. And I think that's what Coach Prime brought him in. He's a dynamic offensive mind, exactly the opposite of what we had with Pat Shurmur, right? Years of NFL stagnation with multiple NFL franchises, including both of our franchises.
no energy.
And then, going back to 2023, at the time that Sean Lewis was demoted, I'll still stand on it. He deserved to get demoted because that was after the second half in the Stanford game, which was probably the worst called offensive second half since that 2010 Kansas game that almost made Mark Johnson explode and slap me, for mentioning it.
Yeah.
That was awful. It was awful. And then in addition to that, I think, so there's the Stanford game, came back from the bye, went to UCLA.
Yeah.
And that was as bad as
That
it
was
gets.
really bad,
How many
too.
sacks? 7 sacks?
7 sacks.
Was that just in the first half, too? It was.
I can't remember if it was the first half, but you have to remember they had 2 of those defensive ends that were freaks in
Amazing.
nature.
Yeah.
They were freaks in nature.
That's true. That's true. And either way, whatever we saw was the sauce was lost. I don't know whether there was like a meddling element to that and Sean Lewis not able to do his thing. He's been up and down at San Diego State, right? I think they were okay last year, but they really struggled the year before.
I will say it would have been really hard to want him to succeed. He's actually a great Twitter follow or X follow. But if he had gone and immediately lit the world on fire again,
hilarious.
I mean, that would have been.
Especially because he brought Darian Hagan with him too, who's a CU legend, forever CU legend. Well, we could never possibly root against their national championship QB,
Right. But also probably a need of new scenery for him as well. So
he was at CU nonstop, like basically his whole career. So yeah, definitely good for him. But either way, that I think is a slightly different situation than what we're seeing now. On the defensive side, obviously Robert Livingston kind of packed his bags and left. I don't know if he was asked to leave or he left of his own accord.
We were just talking about that.
Yeah, and it feels like that might have been one of those a mutual understanding that it's maybe time for.
I know you said they weren't as bad as they looked, but man, they just could not stop the run at all.
Couldn't stop the run, but they were designed to be a bend don't break defense.
True.
And in every single game that you mentioned that we were in the ball game, Georgia Tech, BYU, they did exactly what we asked them: bend, don't break, bend, don't break, bend, don't break, and they succeeded. And the offense let them down every single time. I can't even blame the Arizona game when they had the screen pass. There was 11 missed tackles. All 11 guys on the field.
Oh, so bad. Oh my God.
So I don't even blame them because if I'm a defender, I'm like, you know what? Fuck you, offense.
Our explicit rating is going to be destroyed.
It's all right. You already got demonetized.
What are you going to do? Refund us again?
But I think, to your point as well, Georgia Tech was a absolutely impossible to stop running all over you, especially with Haynes King offense.
And Jamal Haynes, like the Haynes brothers,
connection. And they actually, to your point, bent, didn't break, did a good job, kept us in that game. And I think, over the season, you saw them essentially throw in the towel like the rest of the team did. And so I agree. I'm more on Topher's side on that one. But I do think it was time for, there was a time when we were like, Livingston's going to be the next head coach of Colorado football. Yeah. And I think it was mutually good for everyone that everyone went their different ways. It'll be interesting. We got to delineate between not going into our next episode topic as far as previewing with the next regime, but I think it was time for that to be over. And I'm excited about new energy coming in to a new season. And I think this is really a prove it year for Coach Prime coming up, especially how last year went. Not necessarily maybe for the university, but also for himself as well, where he's got a lot going on in life, and so you need to be able to say, we're locked in, we're focused on the season, and need to see some success here. Because 3-9, we could pay people a hell of a lot less money to go 3-9 every year, and it wouldn't be as heartbreaking,
without a doubt. But we've entered around a lot of the less fun things. I have here. We want to do some good things and things that we enjoyed from last season, right? And I will be the first to say, obviously, the Iowa State victory, huge. But I will also say the other fun thing of last season, and even though he transferred, is watching Tafik Bayard play football.
Oh, that hurts.
It's interesting. I'm glad that's your reaction. Before we started recording, I was talking to Topher about this, and I was like, he transferred. All that is painful. I don't know if that belongs in the happy segment. He balled out. I think
he was so fun to watch.
Literally,
basically every
10 of the 12. QL's Management. Go to qlmanagement.com to learn more. Player of the game, defensive player of the game, certainly. And so, he was a stud. He was everywhere. He was legitimately, I think, the only guy on defense that didn't give up in the back half of the season. And now he's gone.
And now he's gone.
But we're going to ball out.
He's probably going to ball out for A&M. Hopefully not, right?
Yeah.
But
Probably.
but we also had Juju Lewis started 2 games for us,
Yeah.
right, and played in 4. Now in those games he went 0-2. No, in his starts, 0-2 because he didn't start against Iowa State, but he played against West Virginia and he had us down to the wire and he made some pretty big time throws. In that game, and so I see that as a positive just because he's running with a shitty offensive coordinator with
That reminds me. What was the thing that came out during the press
Oh my
conference?
God! He's like, we're actually watching film. We're actually watching film, guys.
That right there. I mean, if there's one thing you should clip out of this whole thing to preview it, we didn't watch film. We didn't watch film last year. Like, that's crazy. We watched more film than they did. That's insane.
NFL offensive coordinator, but
What are we doing?
whatever he is.
NFL.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. NFL in name only. I mean, like, yes, he was an NFL offensive coordinator for a bunch of really bad offenses over and over again. That was outrageous to me. If there's one thing that encapsulates the whole season, finding out that your 17-year-old, maybe just turned 18, freshman quarterback was not even given the opportunity to look and see and figure out
And
what
watch
was coming.
film and like, it also sounded like when he said in the clip, so like, I actually am getting taught what my reads are on the film now, and I'm like, that's going to make such a massive difference because now it's like when I run hitches, I just have to wait for him to come open. Now I can anticipate because I've talked about it before. I know that this guy usually drops there, and if he doesn't, rip it.
And Sherman's whole thing is he's supposed to be a quarterback guy. Like,
Yeah.
that's his whole like value proposition.
Yeah.
We paid this man real money.
Yeah.
Real money. We signed a check and gave him Pat Shermer real money.
And I think the thesis or the idea needs to be like if you're going to bring in a guy like Julian Lewis, you're going to convince Julian Lewis to come in. You're going to have the Sync run a promo so that he feels welcomed when he comes into town. If you're going to say we are going to develop a freshman quarterback, we're going to come in and bring in a 17, literally I think when he got to campus, 17-year-old guy, and we're going to develop him. You need to have the infrastructure in place to actually develop him. And if you're going to do what it sounds like was going on, it's frustrating to an extent because he probably did not develop a whole lot last year. You know, he got the opportunities, and you can see the potential. And we talked about this last season to death, but boy, can you see the potential on some of those throws. And he's gotten at least a little bit bigger. And I think maybe at some point we'll talk about that. But last year's team, you know, our strength and conditioning department needs to figure it out because, like, this can't keep happening. And so
Injuries, undersized.
right.
And that's the thing that's probably killing us the most is that we actually record our practices and we post the clips on practices, but everyone online, right, is saying we look small.
Right. And if you're
There's
going
no
to
cute Quentin Gibson saying that our whole team's small though. Like, what are you doing? You're talking about slot receivers and punt returners.
But my point is, if you're going to be we develop people, which I don't think that's Coach Prime's model, right? Like, and so it's just weird to me because it's always conflicting, or it feels conflicting at times, where you need to develop these guys. But if you're going to invest in a quarterback, and I'm sure the NIL investment is substantial, I don't know that it's actually public, but or at least I haven't seen it.
I don't know, yeah.
But that was a great retention. I think we all kind of assumed at the end of last season that he was gone in the transfer portal. But you need to actually develop these guys, and film is obviously
They
small
did a huge service to him to not burn his red shirt. Right.
Huge.
That was huge. I know there's some people that questioned it. I know Julian Lewis himself was like, I'll play. I want to play. You know, put me on the field. But they did him a huge solid.
especially when the NCAA requirements are being struck down every week anyway. So it's like, oh, what is
Who knows what's even happening, right? I guess the 2021 freshmen are given a 5th year now, but not Ezra Christensen so far.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going
I
on.
think that means we can bring back Buck Buchanan.
Oh, just like a big leg butt.
Our kickoff specialist. Big leg Buck, baby. Bring him back. He was the highlight of last season. You know what?
Yeah.
That's going to be my highlight for my highlight season. We had so many freaking touchbacks. So, Buck, if you watch this program, thank you.
How
you did your job.
far in hell does your team have to have you where you are celebrating touchbacks?
How dare you?
Highlight,
Specialists are people too.
This season. I just want to throw this out there because I feel like we missed it. And is maybe more important than certainly touchbacks. But I thought we had a great season from our Ralphie as well. And so that was a very nice change of pace.
Great point.
To
That is a
see
great point.
some
What
pride
did
on the
we?
field.
What is her name eventually? Strikeout? Or
We should really know this.
we
It's
should
a
really?
bad look for
This is
Collins.
embarrassing. We've been through 3 Ralphies in the past like 4 seasons, though. Okay, calm
Oh my
down.
God, this is killing me. Yeah.
Fireball? No.
We'll have a live studio audience look into it. And, we will amend the episode later. But
She's the best one too.
She's kick ass.
She's not Blackout. Blackout was the best.
Brandy.
Brandy, yeah, that's right.
I hate myself so
Yeah.
much right now.
so QL management thing of the year, Brandy the Buffalo.
She was up.
Who
I really hope it's not a trend of having amazing Ralphies and absolutely atrocious football.
But we had Blackout for 2016.
2016, 10-year anniversary of that,
The rise is real.
which is terrifying. It's been that long. It's been the rise is real. It was real until we got to Santa Clara. Yeah.
It was real until week 12.
As soon as Steven Montez had to come out in the second half in Santa Clara against Washington, it was over.
Yeah. And I think we are now way digressed, so I apologize. I wanted to make sure that we got her moment in the sun if we were also giving Buck Buchanan our
Yeah, that's valid.
praise.
That's valid.
Yeah. Hey, we got to give Mata a little bit of a shout just because Topher beat the drum that he was terrible, and then all of a sudden he made a couple kicks, and he's like, you know what, he's our guy, and they got the NIL jersey.
Yeah.
And because we are, of course, a Mata podcast, we always have been, if they do get an extra year of eligibility, even though a lot of people on X have been very afraid of him coming back for another
PAT
season.
specialist.
We are in favor. We are not leaving our guy behind.
Matomatic,
We
baby.
stay in favor of more Alejandro Mata rather than less. But that's all I have to say on that.
Staub in the second half against Delaware was a positive.
That was also
He
positive.
gave us way too
second
much
half.
hope.
Second half stop against Delaware might be the greatest quarterback ball.
Dude, some of the throws that he hit were sick.
I was like, prime Tom Brady was going, dang.
And they started him against Houston. We were like, all right, stop. And they were like, ah.
That's why you were third string.
That Houston performance might have been one of the worst. That's like the Nathan Peterman of college football performances.
Yeah.
That was really bad. But again, if he wasn't watching, if he wasn't shown film, like maybe he's going to do well. He's at Tennessee now, right? So
Yeah.
He is, and I think Staub is a great example of it somewhat at times worked, because there were times where he came in and it looked like it worked, because I think he was truly, even though he was not nearly as talented as any of the, well, we love him, he's talented, but didn't probably have the same ceiling as some of the other guys like Caden Salter experience, but he was a better fit for a Pat Shurmur offense. And so you could see that at times where when you're just trying to slam a round peg into a square hole, it worked better when you had an actual, square peg. So even though he maybe didn't have the same ceiling, when you have to accommodate your offensive coordinator instead of your offensive coordinator accommodating you, and you picked up the wrong guys, I think that was pretty emblematic of that.
Yeah. Well, that was our highlights. So now I kind of want to dive. We've touched on the low points a little bit, right? But we ended our season on a 5-game skid. I can't rattle off the names, but of those last 5 games, we got blown out embarrassingly bad by Utah and Arizona.
Yep.
A lot of people were saying that it came down to the offensive and defensive lines, and that was really where we lost the season, especially down the stretch. We had a little bit of injury. We had to play a couple of second, third string guys, or they had to play longer because we didn't have guys to come in. Obviously, painful to remember those games. But I wanted to see, what do you guys remember from those games that really stuck out as far as what were our biggest week? I mean, other than just being terrible.
no front 7 presence whatsoever.
Yeah.
That's what kept. And that was a constant theme even when we were in the games.
Mm-hmm.
But this was no front 7 presence whatsoever, and literally nothing else happening on the other side of the ball, which exacerbates the issue so much more.
And when you look at our defensive pass stats, it was not as bad as it felt, right?
Yeah.
Especially like
Our pass rush was abysmal last year. Like worst. Like I don't think Carl Durrell put out a pass rush as bad as last year. I mean, it was horrendous. There was never any pressure on the quarterback, and I thought our secondary was actually pretty talented. But when you've got 300 hours to throw a football, eventually you're going to find a guy and hurt you. And so I think, to your point, the stats not being so bad. Part of that is also because every team knew that they could just run it straight down our face, and there was absolutely nothing we could do about it at times. And so I think Utah certainly took advantage of that. And so
that was Utah with their third string quarterback too, right? It was Bird Ficklin, if I recall correctly.
Berkmeyer was the one that had the.
No. You're thinking of BYU. Bachmeyer was the.
Bachmeyer,
Yeah. I'm saying like Utah wasn't even playing.
Utah,
they weren't playing Dampier. They were playing Berk.
That's right. They were playing freaking third. That's the second time we played Utah's third string quarterback and got curb stomped.
That only makes it worse.
Now, you know that one TikTok audio? If I had a nickel for every time that happened, I'd have 2 nickels. Not a lot. Weird that it happened twice.
We so poo-poo.
Great reference.
Great reference. Here's my boiling hot take of the episode. I actually did not think our offensive line was that bad last season. I think they were terrible in the run game. Well, not terrible. I think they were not very good in the run game. But I actually think, and we said this last season, I think there were times where you guys agreed with me that if Shedeur had that offensive line, we would have been a much better team.
Yeah.
And so
Crazy to think about.
I don't think the pass protection was all that horrendous. I think we legitimately, and I think maybe my worst take in the history of this podcast, and there's been some absolute doozies, but I said that we were going to have a better wide receiver core last season than we'd had the year before, which probably was enough to have me kicked off the podcast in full.
Yeah.
So that was pretty painful, but I think that was actually, in my opinion, the low light was that and it's hard to tell, right? Chicken versus egg. You're not able to get anything on the ground. Your quarterback situation is in hell, and then our wide receiver core just didn't produce. And it's hard to know necessarily like what was the worst part of that. I don't think it was the O-line that was the worst part of that.
What's wild? This is slightly tangential to this. Is the fact that those 2 missing pieces, Shedeur and Travis, you can actually look at that and say that may have explained a big chunk of that drop-off. And that's wild for football.
Oh, no doubt.
That's wild for football because football you think of as being like the ultimate team sport, right? Where you don't necessarily rely on one individual person. The sum is greater than the individual parts, so to speak. But man, when you lose a Heisman Trophy winner, when you lose a passing quarterback of Shedeur's capability simultaneously and don't backfill them with anything remotely close to that, it would have taken, think about this, you needed to have an All-American wide receiver, an All-American DB, and one of the top passing quarterbacks to replace 2 guys.
We said this during the season, and I'll say it again now. The greatest argument for Travis Hunter's Heisman campaign was last season.
Yeah.
Not even what he did the season where he won the Heisman. It was watching last season and watching the drop off for fairly when in the portal when they came, fairly talented wide receivers. And I don't think our secondary was terrible, but losing Travis is one of one. We will never have another Travis Hunter. I think unquestionably he's the greatest player to ever play for Colorado. Although it'll be interesting to see if he ever becomes a Supreme Court justice, which would, Byron White's pretty tough to beat on that. But, I think it was, and it goes without saying that Shedeur was a huge part of that offense as well. And it's maybe why we were so frustrated watching the drop off.
Well, my hot take is knowing how good Travis and Shedeur are, and all the other NFL talent that was on that roster, I think 9-3 was an underperformance.
Yeah, looking back on it, that's a scary thought.
Yeah.
And I think you called it at the time, too. That was a disappointment, only winning 9 games with the talent that they had on that team. Look at BJ Green now. BJ Green is killing in Jacksonville. And then, like, LeJontay Wester's getting looks.
Yep.
Like
Jimmy Horn Jr. still
Jimmy Horn
is starting for the Panthers.
People are saying that they need to throw the ball to him more because he's been so dynamic. I know he had that drop in the playoffs, but he's come right back in camp, and he's done really well so far. So, yeah, that's a lot of talent. And so I guess to that point, maybe it wasn't just losing Travis and Shedeur. Like, we did have a lot of good additional players. Losing Colton Hood last season was brutal too, right? Because that was your guy on the other side of the field.
But we've gotten our revenge with Boo Carter finally coming.
Yeah,
home,
that is true.
Yeah, and we trade him, and I don't even want to be negative about, but trade him a quarterback, and instead get Boo Carter back. So the Tennessee
we'll give you a third string quarterback for our first starting DB.
The Tennessee to Colorado
that thing got fleeced in this trade.
Trade deal. It seems like there's surprisingly a lot of overlap between us and Tennessee these last few seasons, but that's really more of a.
There's the players to be named later from the Todd Helton to the Rockies trade.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, well, that kind of sums up our lowlights. Looking ahead, right? beyond this last season, right? I want you guys to remember what was the lowest point as a fan of being Buffs and the highest point of being a fan of being the Buffs in the past, and just your entire livelihoods of being Buffs fans.
Oh my God.
I think I've told you guys my low light, but I'll say it again for anyone that's listening that doesn't know. In 2014, that was the season where CSU throttled us to start the season. This was Mike McIntyre's second year. And the second game of the season, we went to Foxborough to play UMass. And UMass was and continues to be an unconscionably bad FBS program. Unbelievably bad.
This is a story straight out of the ancient scrolls.
Yeah.
I did not remember this.
So in the first half of that game, we were down double digits. Actually, at halftime, we were down double digits. And UMass had a tight end that made a highlight reel catch that made it to SportsCenter top 10. And I just remember sitting there at halftime because this game wasn't even like properly televised. I had to like stream it on some like weird off website. It wasn't even on ESPN Plus.
Before crack streams.
Yeah, it was like pre-crack streams. And I just remember sitting there being like, why am I doing this? Right? I mean, this is the team that I've been watching since I was a kid. Both my parents are CU alumni. I went to CU for undergrad, and I just started grad school that season. I was like, what am I doing here? And this was before you guys were involved with like student section stuff because you used to come down for that too. And so we had just started doing that, and I was like, why am I even doing that? You know, you start questioning everything. Of course, the Buffs came back and won that game. Nelson Spruce had a touchdown, maybe a couple touchdowns, and I was like, okay, I don't have to completely quit. But
shout out to Nelson Spruce.
Yeah, that's a former I haven't thought about in a long time.
I don't know if anyone else remembers how low that was, because like CSU ended up having a really good year that year. They won 10 games, and you're like, oh, here we go. Like they're taking off. They have a lot of funding. They actually have one of the highest budgets of any of the G5 schools now. And they're building a new stadium back then. Like, oh, they're going like this. Maybe this is the end.
Yeah.
You know, they blew us out. I mean, it was 31-17, I think, in the showdown that year.
I remember
but
that
it could have been way worse. I think they had the ball driving and they just decided to take a knee at the end, but it could have been way worse. That was my low point. And that's wild to call that the low point because I was at the Sacramento State game. Where they lost in 2012.
Yeah.
I was at the CSU game where we lost to them at home in 2009.
And they stormed our own field.
They
right?
stormed our field.
Yeah.
That was unbelievably bad. Like, good Lord. UMass? No. UMass had won like 3 games in the previous 6 seasons combined.
Yeah.
And they've won 3 games since then, practically, in the last 12 years. So that was my low point. And I survived that, so I can survive 3-9. Like, that was just unbelievable. High point, for sure, Utah win. Like,
2016?
It's got to be 2016.
2016 Utah win.
So, if I had to go
in the snow, hell yeah.
If I had to go to broader context, it would be the Big 12 championship winner, 62-36 in 2001, because I do remember those games. But the fact that I was
crazy.
Yeah,
We're 4 years.
You guys are little babies. But I...
5.
Oh, okay.
I remember 62-36.
Yeah.
And we've looked at the demographics of the people that listen to our podcast, and we understand that way more of the people that listen to this are like Sreyas.
Yeah. 62-36 was unreal, and then the 39-37 over Texas in the Big 12 championship.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Sims just absolutely threw that game away for Texas.
Yeah.
Those were great, but the fact that I was there for Utah, like Kenneth Olabode get the scoop and score to win the game at the end. And we're on the field.
Friend of the pod.
Friend of the pod. He was our first guest.
I think he was our first guest.
Yeah. That was spectacular, right? That was truly spectacular. And then also just personally for me, being at the TCU win, so Coach Prime's first game.
Yeah.
He's like my best friend who like we were watching football games together in high school had just died like 2 or 3 weeks before that.
Yeah.
And so I got to take my parents there, and it was very emotional. So I'd say that would be the other one. How about you?
Yeah, it won't be my best, but since you just mentioned it, I do have to say I got married literally the day after that TCU game, and
TCU was better.
My wife does listen to these podcasts to be supportive, so I'll be careful about what I say. The highlight of that weekend, it was a great weekend. Hard to pick a highlight,
to say the least,
is what I'll say, but. I think for me, the low point, I've talked about this extensively on the episode, I won't beat it to death, but I talk about the origin of why we decided to start this podcast. People always give us a hard time because our podcast and the X account started right after Coach Prime got hired, but We were the student section leaders back when, in 2016 and 2015. I mean, really, 2016 was a great season. 2015, 2017, some really bad seasons. And so we had always been there. And like when we were in school, I would get there literally when gates opened, when we were playing, like, speaking of UMass, UMass. And for whatever reason, it felt really important to me to be there so I could be in the front. And then turns out no one even gets there until, frankly, back then, no one was even getting there when the game started. So to have all that and to put up with it. And then I called Topher after we lost to Utah, right before Carl Durrell got hired. And they had just done the whole, we're going to keep Carl Durrell. We think we're moving in the right direction. It was just so delusional. And thinking about, I don't know if this is like physically healthy for me to like care so much about this.
So relatable.
And I literally called Topher, and Topher was like, well, we might get Coach Prime. And I was like, it's the hope that kills you, and I literally cannot take it anymore. I was like, and I can just see it now. We're going to fire Carl Durrell, and we're going to hire Carl Durrell again. So
Bronco Mendenhall. Cody Hawkins.
I mean, literally, Bronco Mendenhall was like the expected hire. And
that would have been that would have the best case scenario.
Right. And you think about, anyway. And so that was definitely the low point for me, where like even I was like, I think this is the breaking point. There were serious conversations where people were like, maybe Colorado will just discontinue its football program. Like that is how bad it was. And that people are going to think when we're saying this, we're being hyperbolic. That was a legitimate like conversation.
In 2022, that was there were real conversations to be like, we can't keep doing this.
I can't tell you how many Denver Post articles that I saw through the years that were saying CU needs to move down to the Mountain West.
Yeah.
So many times, like they can never compete at that level again.
Right.
There's not enough local talent. There's not enough buzz. All the great vibes that the alum from the 90s remember are completely gone and dead and dusted. Died in 2005 with Gary Barnett getting fired and the whole shenanigans with the president.
Right.
And all that's, just crazy stuff going on.
Horrible.
It's all gone. Don't even worry about it. You guys have to move on. And so going from that to being the most talked about, most hyped, most hated team in the country was unreal.
Yeah.
I'll never forget those 3 games to start the 2023 season. It was magic.
And my other low light is, and this is just emblematic of what the support at Colorado was at the time. 2015, they scheduled a watch party when we were at Hawaii.
I knew you were going to bring that up. I was going to bring it up.
Easily win, and then our own student union kicked all of the students that had stayed up until it was like
2 a.m.
2 a.m.
2 a.m. We didn't kick off till 10.
And got kicked. No, and so it was like midnight when this happens. They had scheduled a watch party at the student union and then kicked all the students out at halftime, and then we lost the game. And so it's very emblematic of like, I ended up going for my grad degree to Penn State, and the level of support and like institutional care about the football team is just so different. And so, especially at the time, and I think Colorado's done a very good job about moving into a better spot on that, but that's a whole conversation for another episode. But my highlight, I think, I'm thinking about it, and I have to say, a lot of great games being in Folsom Field, being in a lot of really wonderful games. We did a fake card stunt at Utah. We lost that game. A highlight, and maybe we can link to we did an episode where we talked about that, so I won't bring it back up. But all the fun like experiences. But I really, when I think about like the highest moment, it's either that TCU game. We have game day coming to Colorado. It's amazing. But I always think about, and I don't think either of you were going to say this, in 2016, the Oregon game, where we watched it on TV. We weren't able to go. And it was one of those moments where it felt like it was the breakthrough, and it was like, oh my God, maybe this is actually happening. All of the support is coming to fruition. And then Oregon is driving down the field, and it's like, here it is again. Like, I've seen this so many times. They're about to run the clock
I know
out
this feeling.
and literally score on the last play of the game, and then we
Witherspoon
intercept the ball. And
what a terrible throw!
And I don't know that we've ever won another game in the white stormtrooper uniform since. It doesn't feel like we have, but I'm sure.
TCU.
True.
That was the gold one though.
It wasn't the true all white. It wasn't the true all white.
And I'm like almost like choking up thinking about that, because like the moment was so unbelievable, and it was like, this is the moment. And that, in my opinion, that is like when 2016 switched, and all of a sudden people were like,
the rise is real.
The rise.
Like ESPN started talking about it, and like the Reddit CFB, which is very worth time and worthwhile if people are not familiar with it. All of a sudden people are like, oh, Colorado might be legit. And for me, that was the high.
The Akella Witherspoon interception was one of the best individual moments in my CU sports fandom, other than being there for the LeJontay Wester Hail Mary against Baylor.
Oh my God! I can't believe neither of you had that as the highlight.
I know. I have to guess what you. Well, we'll see. I think I know what yours is going to be. We were there for the.
I got it on video too. Oh my God, that was great! And then the forced fumble. Oh! In terms of individual moments, that's like
peak.
God.
I'll start with my low light. My low light is actually when we played Minnesota.
Oh God, that was so good.
In Colorado, in Boulder. The only Buffalo that crossed the 50 was Ralphie.
that was not a good Minnesota team.
That was not a good Minnesota.
And that was also the Ralphie that didn't like to run.
And that was right, yeah. Like there's so many factors that went into this, but I remember after that game, my wife, who I love very, very much, was all like, "Why do you get so upset about this? We know they're gonna be bad." And that was like a moment for me that I was like, I don't know, but I just care so deeply. I want them to be good so bad, and when they're not, it physically hurts my soul.
And it legitimately feels like you want them to be good more than they want to be good.
Yeah.
Like, especially back then. And,
yeah. Well, if you think about it, especially in this day and age, we have more connection to the program than those players. Very painful to. I mean, it's wild to think about because it used to be. Man, if you played for a college football team, that is
4 years,
you're bleeding whatever colors of that college football
You'll
team.
never have another Philip Lindsay kind of guy. It's
or Nate Landman.
Yeah.
Or
Philip Lindsay in particular is such an inspiring situation because he tore his ACL as a senior in high school.
Yep.
Had to sit out and then watch the coaching change because he was an Embry recruit.
That's right.
McIntyre came in and luckily retained him. And then he just grinded his way up the depth chart.
And I think he came out of the same class as Christian McCaffrey, right? So the whole world's on fire with
so.
Christian McCaffrey coming out of Valor.
I think so. It was around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That is, sad to think about.
Yeah, but my highlight moments, okay? I will have 2 highlight moments, right? My honorable mention highlight moment is the Baylor Hail Mary because it was on my wife's birthday, and that was so much fun. Probably, like, that will live forever in my memory. But the number one best moment of being a Buffs fan
I would bet my life I know exactly what you're going to say here.
2019 Nebraska corn on the 4-yard line.
Yeah.
The flea flicker. Katie Nixon. In the blink of an eye, the Buffs are back in it.
And we have talked so much trash in that stadium.
Oh my God.
That flea flicker was amazing.
That was
amazing.
I forever. I can see it in my head.
Were you in Lincoln the previous year?
I was indeed.
So where would you put that one? Because I was stuck at work during that game. It was awful.
I refuse to have one of my best memories be in Nebraska.
I actually was. So the moment I thought he was going to say was the Nebraska game, I'm realizing you're talking about the flea flicker.
Katie Nixon, yeah.
I was thinking about when we were in Lincoln. And I literally took the LSAT that morning, and then we go to the game in Lincoln, and everyone's talking trash, and Nebraska fans are actually, we'll have to edit this out of the podcast, but like the ones that were around us were genuinely wonderful, spectacular people, and the people behind us were not, and they were like defending us from them or whatever. And then we ended up with that long pass. It was like 50 something yards. He catches it. We ended up winning the game, and we are like losing our minds. And the wonderful people behind us were like, "Congratulations!" We told the guy 10 rows back to like go to hell.
That was Scott Frost's first.
Go take your cousin.
They had so much hope. They had so much. Scott Frost's return and everything. Oh,
and
man.
to this day, you can look at the highlight because there was 2 CU sections in the stadium, right? There was one that was on the first row, and there was one little section in the top little corner. We are that top little section corner, and yeah. That was great.
Amazing.
I refuse to have that be my best memory of the Buffs.
It's so funny thinking back as to how dominant Nebraska was in those 2 games, only to lose both of them.
It's crazy. I rewatched highlights and I go, how did we win this game? I don't understand.
I think they outgained us by 200 yards in Lincoln, and they outgained us by like at least 100 yards in Folsom.
Mm-hmm.
That was just spectacular.
And
And then
he
Folsom was like,
outgained them in points scored.
outgained. Well, and then they also had way more fans than we did in that 2019 game. It was wild.
I choose to not remember that.
But it's great. You love that. It's
That week on Twitter after we beat them was the greatest week on Twitter of all time.
I legitimately almost deleted my Twitter account. It was so toxic.
We've had some good times. We've made the most of a very, very bad situation. I need to update my my spreadsheet on how bad my record's been, but then also need to update. I've been tracking what our win-loss record's been since like Gary Barnett got fired,
Right.
and I think at the time they hired Coach Prime, it was something like 69 and 134 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we've won that many games since then. Although we had the 9 wins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
All right. Well, for now, that will end our episode. Thank you for listening. Follow us on Twitter. I will put together a little Substack kind of article that would kind of summarize everything that we've talked about. So if you want to read that instead of just listening, obviously.
Our antics. And we're going to try to do an episode every week, basically from now until the end of the season. Hopefully Jake will be back. I'm going to be going on some parental leave myself here shortly.
I will hold it down.
We're going to find a way to hold it down somehow, some way. And I just want to make sure, because we always forget to do this, and we should have done this at the beginning of the episode, but if people can subscribe, like, give comments, feedback, and if anyone will be, we'll mention this again next week, but if anyone will be at the Georgia Tech game, at least Sreyas and I will be out there. So we're looking forward to being there, and I think we're going to go to the Buffs Bash before the game, so hopefully we'll see you guys out there. But if you want to sign off, I just had to get that out there.
Hey, with that, Sco Buffs.
Let's go Buffs, baby.
Smooth.